Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well and welcome back to another bike review video. Today I'm very lucky indeed. You join me in the pretty little town of Bourne End in Buckinghamshire, and the reason why I'm here is because this is the home of Kawasaki UK, where I've just picked up this splendid brand new motorcycle. And this is why I'm very lucky, because this is the new for 2025 Kawasaki Ninja 1100 SX. It's a classic, what I call old school sports tourer, in that the emphasis is kind of on the sports. It's also super comfy for touring purposes, so it's a bike that's right up my street. I rode one of these back last in 2024. It was just one that I'd had loaned for a short period from a dealer, whereas this one I've actually got, as I say, from Kawasaki UK. I'm the first UK moto vlogger to get a proper press load. I've got this bike for a couple of weeks, so I'm going to be very excited to get to know the bike a little bit over that time. So this is a bit of an exclusive, so hopefully it's going to be of interest to you. Stick around, stay tuned, I'll tell you what I think about it. Okay folks, welcome back to the channel on this glorious winter's day. I'm recording this on Friday the 20th of December, and I have to say it was very quiet at Kawasaki UK where apparently most Fridays people work from home, and I don't blame them, because it's not particularly warm here today. If you're riding in, it's about 5 degrees centigrade, but it is a beautiful day, as you can see. Enhanced, I have to say, by being on such a beautiful motorcycle. I'll be sort of biased, but well, let's face it, I'm going to be biased because I've always been a fan of what used to be the S1000 SX, didn't it? The big change, of course, being that it now has an 1100cc or thereabouts as opposed to 1000cc, which I think is mainly to bring it in line with the Euro 5 Plus regulations, because in even having a larger capacity it's actually slightly down on power, but we'll talk more about that shortly. Before we get into all those sort of details, let me just show you over this bike. Okay folks, so check this out. Is that not a good looking bike? I think, as sports tourers go, that is a proper sports tourer. It looks like a sports bike, but it's built for touring. I think it looks really nice. A few little changes I've noticed on the sort of well, I don't know what you describe, the graphics and so on. Number one is the last year's bike had some like gills painted on here or stuck on it. It looked a bit cheapo. They've taken that away and they've added these on this SE model, these nice gold stripes here and the gold rims around the wheels that I just think really look classy. Looks really nice. Another thing that I noticed about it, the green on this, of course Kawasaki always do green, don't they? And I don't know whether the iPhone's giving a faithful representation of the colour, but this green isn't quite as bright as the Kawasaki green used to be, and I think this is actually a nicer shade of green. I do like the way that they have the raised lettering of Kawasaki on there. Otherwise the bike is pretty much the same, I think, as it was for the pre-2025 models in terms of styling. There might be some changes there, but I don't notice them. The exhaust is pretty big and ugly, but you know, they all are these days, aren't they? Let me just show you, this is the SE model, so we've got the Öhlins shock at the back. We'll go through the full spec a bit later, and we've got the Brembo brakes complete with braided lines and all that sort of caper. But in terms of styling, I think she's a very nice looking bike. Let's just get out the road before I get killed by Porsche. And yeah, top marks to Kawasaki for sticking to that old school flavour of sports tourers, rather going for the sort of tall rounders that we see so much of, which are, you know, do have their place, they're nice and comfy and so on, but I just think this thing looks so much meaner. Obviously subjective point, but for me that is a good looking motorcycle. Okay, welcome back aboard the bike, and as you saw, she is a lovely looking thing, and I think it was a nice looking bike before, but I think just the little subtle changes to some of the graphics and even the paint colour has really enhanced the look of the bike. So as I mentioned in this sort of intro, most of the changes on the bike are to do with the fact that it's got that newer engine. Now, even though it's a couple of horsepower down on the power, and we'll go through the specs later, they've changed the way the torque works on the bike and made it a little bit more accessible. Also, the bike is a little bit lighter, so from a power to weight ratio it's not a lot different from the other bike, so don't be put off by the fact it's got slightly less power than last year's bike. In reality, that makes absolutely no difference. And in fact, because of the changes to the torque curve, it feels a bit more lively. Now what I'm doing here, I don't know this area particularly well, but I'm looking for some faster roads, because this being a sport touring bike, obviously it's going to be used quite a lot for touring purposes, which usually means sadly some boring motorway type stuff. So I'm heading up, well, first off to a bit of dual carriageway here up near Marlow, just to see what she's like at motorway speeds, the sort of thing you might do if you're on tour. But while we're en route, let's just talk through some of these other little changes that I've noticed. First off, I mean, the cockpit is all, I think, pretty much identical to last year's bike, and there's nothing, that's not a bad thing, there's nothing not to like. The only addition, and I'm riding the SE version of the bike by the way, and this is another change for 2025. It's the first time that Kawasaki have brought out an SE version of the bike, and what that effectively gives you is Brembo front brakes, braided lines, Öhlins shock on the rear, the usual sort of SE treatment. I have a Kawasaki Z900 RS SE at home, it has the same sort of treatment. It just makes some of that cycle gear a bit more premium, and theoretically makes the ride better. But you know, there's nothing wrong with the ride anyway on the standard bike as far as I was concerned. Right, let's just join this bit of dual carriageway. Anyway, before I got distracted, what I was going to say, the only thing in the cockpit I can see is different is this. On the SE model, they give you a phone holder. Look, it's got one of these damped shock mount things, so you can mount your phone in there if you want to. And this here is a USB port, so you can plug your phone in as well as mount it. So that's pretty nice addition, I think. Alrighty, let's just wind the bike up to motorway speeds then. Quick shifter on here is excellent, by the way. Okay, here we go. Usual motorway cruising speeds thereabouts. And I have to say, this 4-cylinder engine is so silky smooth. Really lovely. They've done some work to sort out vibrations at higher speeds on the bike, and I have to say it's absolutely worked whatever they've done. I think they've put some different bar ends in. I think they may have done some stuff around the foot pegs, around the mountings of them, and I can detect absolutely no vibrations at all. And this windscreen, although it looks quite low, is surprisingly effective. It just dishes the air over your head, no problem at all. I'm not in any sort of turbulent airflow. It is quite noisy, but it's not turbulent. So yeah, I think faster riding, if you're, you know, en route to your touring holiday, absolutely no problems at all. I mean, there's bags of power here to keep up with traffic and so on. But yeah, no problems on faster roads. Quick shifter is so smooth on this, it's incredible. Well, another change for this model here, apparently new brake lever. Can't remember what the old one was like, but apparently that's a new one. While we stopped at the traffic lights, look, I can get my feet flat on the deck. I'm 5'8" with a 32-inch leg, that's 32-inch in trouser leg. I don't know what my inside leg is, so I'm a sort of medium-sized fella and I can flat foot this either side, even though the seat height is relatively high. In fact, while I'm waiting for the lights, let me take you through the specs now. Okay, let's whiz through the numbers then, starting off with the engine, which is now higher capacity, as I say, from the outgoing model. This now is a 1099cc 4-cylinder, puts out 134.1 brake horsepower, which is 6 bhp down on the old 1000, thanks pretty much to Euro emissions. 83.3 foot-pounds of torque, and basically the torque now comes lower down the engine, so it's a bit more usable than before. This one now also is Euro 5 plus regs. Brakes on the front, dual 300mm discs. This one's got 4-pot Brembo calipers complete with braided lines, and also a new brake lever. And brakes on the rear taken care by this single 260mm disc with a single pot caliper. Looks like it's a Nissan. Suspension on the front, taking care of these 41mm upside down forks, and they are fully adjustable. Suspension on the rear comes courtesy of this Öhlins shock on the SE model, which is of course adjustable. Seat height on the bike is a quite tall 835mm. Sounds tall, but in practice actually isn't. I can get my feet down flat on the floor at 5'8". The wet weight of this SE model is 234 kilograms. The non-SE is 235 kilograms, so quite a weighty beast, but you don't feel the weight at all when you're on the road. This lovely sculpted tank holds 19 litres of fuel, and you can expect a range of around about 210 miles. And that's actually better fuel economy than on the old bike, thanks to a changing of gear ratios mainly. Right, let's just show you the startup screen as we talk about electronics on the bike. It's got a quick shifter as standard, which now works at lower revs. It's got power mode, 6-axis IMU for lean angle stuff. It's got cruise control as standard. The SE has heated grips as standard. It's got that bar mounted USB socket hidden just here. In fact, if I can, there you go, that's under there. And then you've also got a power socket for your more high powered stuff like heated jackets and things like that you might want to plug in. It's got this nifty looking TFT which does have connectivity for your phone as well if you want to do that. Or one other thing that I quite like about the bike, when you do turn the ignition on, look, you actually get both headlights on, not just one, which is a nice touch. Pricing for the bike, the basic model is 12,249. This SE model with its extra trinkets comes in at 13,999, and if you want you can spec them up as I mentioned with panniers or rather a top box. A couple of other things to mention: the screen on the bike is adjustable, it's manually adjustable. I've got this in the down position at the moment, which I think looks best, and it works perfectly fine in both the down and up positions. There's a little tag that you sort of push on, and then you manhandle the screen up and down, so it's very easy to adjust. The base model only comes in black, I think, whereas this SE comes in green or matte graphite. Oh, and they also have something called a clean mount system for the panniers. I think it's basically that the panniers go into these lugs here. You don't need any special racks. Alright, welcome back aboard, and a good opportunity then now as I head into High Wycombe town just to try what the bike's like in some traffic and at slower speeds. See how she feels. I have to say, this is a very impressive bike in terms of its comfort. I mean, the smooth 4-cylinder engine adds to that, but the seat is nice and comfy. The riding position, oops, sorry officer, I deemed it too late to brake. Where was it? Yeah, the seat's nice and comfy, and the riding position is, well, pretty much perfect. I rode here on my GS, which is way more upright than this is. This is a little bit weight over the front wheelie, but not to the point where you've got loads of weight on your wrists. You've got a little bit of weight on there, but not loads and loads. So again, perfect for that sort of the sporty end of sports touring riding. I think not only would it be a pleasure to ride this to your location, but once you get to the Alps or wherever you're going, it'd be an absolute hoot to hoon around the twisties. These mirrors are quite stalky, just need to adjust them a little bit for me. As I say, really lucky because this is a brand new bike. It's only done 16 miles on the Odo now, and most of those are mine. So I'm taking it a little bit easy. The brakes are brand new, of course, as are the tyres. Nothing's scrubbed in, so I'm kind of doing that. So if you're looking for lamb chop style hooligan riding, not going to get it on today's video. It's a bit cold out here, as I mentioned. Boy, yeah, she wants to go. Plus brand new bike, so I'm going to be a little bit careful, but as I said, I have got it for a couple of weeks over the Christmas period, so I will be bringing another video out on the bike, at least a sort of a summing up video. If you've got any particular questions you have about this bike, because it is brand new for 2025, as I say, any things you want me to focus at, look at, show you in particular, then do let me know in the comments and I'll pick those up for the next video, which will come out early in the new year. I'm trying to detect anything about the bike at the moment that I don't like. This is obviously just my first ride review and I'm just scratching the surface at this point. I suppose one thing is what you're looking at here on the handlebars is a little bit messy looking with the cables here, and I'm not sure about the mount. I mean, useful, but a bit messy looking perhaps. But I'm really clutching at straws. That's a rather noisy Harley, isn't it? Why would you have that? I don't know. Not as civilised as this beast. I have to say, I've got the heated grips on, which come as standard on the SE model, and they're working absolutely fine. If anything, they're a little bit hotter than the grips on my own Kawasaki, but they're not quite as volcanic as on the BMW. Does feel nice and light. I mean, it's not a particularly light bike, but it's Great on the agility front for weaving through traffic and so on. It's not a problem. Oh, tremendous smell of weed as I ride up here. I mentioned it before, you just smell that so much more these days. When you're on a bike, you do get a whiff of whatever's in the air, don't you? And these days, more and more people seem to be driving under the influence of cannabis. I do not approve. I don't have any problem with people having cannabis, but I do have a problem with them driving with it. Anyway, that's another debate for another day. So yeah, fueling through here in this traffic seems really nice. No problems at all. It's just smooth, there's no jerkiness going on. The bike isn't complaining one jot when you're riding slowly. What is going on here? What a mess. Yeah, I think if you were to sum the bike up in one word, it's smooth. Actually reminds me quite a lot of my Honda Goldwing, and that is high praise indeed, because that's a 6-cylinder bike and they don't come smoother than that. Got a nice sound to the engine. You probably won't be picking it up on the mic on this camera because it's quite muted, it's quite nice and quiet, unlike that Harley we heard. It's quite a civilised machine this, it's not going to upset your neighbours. Wow, that quick shifter is so slick. That has got to be one of the best quick shifters I've ever used. You barely know that you've changed gear, it's fantastic. Not quite so smooth coming down the box, although it's still very, very good. But certainly up the box, it's amazing. Alright folks, if you've seen any of my bike reviews before, you'll know what's coming now as I head towards Great Missington train station. Yes, it's time for the lugging it about test. This is basically a chance for me to get off the bike, manhandle it about, or is it woman handle? Let's not go there. Just to see what the bike would be like to live with in terms of, you know, moving in and out of your garage, that sort of thing. And also it's a chance for me to test out the turning circle on the bike. So let's find my favourite car parking spot, which is usually has rubber tyre marks in, but I think it's this one. Maybe the rain's washed it off. Anyway, in we go. Right, how easy is it to find neutral? Very easy indeed. How is it to find the stand? Very easy indeed. And I have to say that side stand just feels super light. Well, it doesn't feel like the bike's going to go over or something, but it's very light. That spring could maybe be a little bit heavier, I think. You know, there she is. Doesn't she look splendid? I do like that colour. Kind of falling in love with this bike a little bit. Very, very nice. Anyway, we've got grab handles and stuff. We want them. Lift her off the side. She is, you know, theoretically a heavy bike, but easy to lift off the side stand. Now, as I go to full lock, I can feel actually that feels quite a wide turning circle. Actually, it's easy enough to move, but it's not exactly a tight turn, I don't think. Let's have a look at the scores on the door. So I started in the middle of that one, and I've ended up on the outside of that one. So that, I've done a lot of these tests, that makes it quite a wide turning circle on this. So you're going to need to do a few multiple point turns if you've got a tight area that you're going to keep the bike. Not a brilliant turning circle, but it's not a problem either. It's just an interesting thing to do, a comparison between bikes. Okay, just a little chance now to try the bike on some twistier back roads. It is wet and slippery out here, so I don't want to go mad, but it is 60 mile an hour limit, so I can give a little bit of a squirt. Rear suspension feels nice. Can I really tell the difference between it, the Öhlins that I've got on this SE, versus that standard suspension which was on the last bike I rode? No, I can't. I'm not actually a good enough rider, and it was too long ago when I rode the other bike to notice the difference. But it's certainly a nice ride. It's not so soft that you can't feel what the bike's doing. In fact, if anything, it's relatively harsh, but of course you can adjust it, so you can dial it to exactly your want. And it's very nice. Unfortunately, a white van has stopped me fun. Look at that, how annoying. These big old stalky mirrors, not sure if I like the looks of them, but they work alright. There's no vibration or anything there. Well, again, as I say, the watchword for this bike I think is smooth. If vibration was an issue before, which I didn't particularly think it was, they've certainly sorted that out this time. So you can get this bike with panniers if you want to, or you can have a top box, but you can't have both. I've elected for neither here because I just think the bike looks better without them. I think if it was me, I'd probably go for the top box. I just find those a bit more pleasing to the eye than the panniers maybe. But yeah, I suppose for a touring bike maybe that's a bit of a disadvantage that you can't have both. Certainly when I go on tour with the missus on the back of the bike, we use both. And you need every bit of storage you can, don't you, when you're on tour. A lot of traffic about today, lots of people doing some last minute Christmas shopping. Switch gear on the bike is all pretty standard, usual stuff on the right hand side, well just your start stop button basically. And then on the left, it's quite difficult to see with this bracket obscuring the view probably, but same switch gear as last year, quite modern looking, relatively intuitive as well, quite easy to change modes and so on. I've got it in road mode at the moment. It also has a rain, a custom and a faster. I can't remember what the faster mode is called, like a sport mode. But as I'm sort of scrubbing the bike in, I don't want to be too aggressive with her at the moment. Maybe later on during my time with it we can experiment with the riding modes a bit more. So I guess what is my summary for my first ride on this bike then? What are the likes and dislikes? Well, I very much like the comfort on the bike. I've got the riding position spot on, my legs just in a nice sporty position but nothing too extreme. My back's not hunched over, I haven't got a lot of weight on the wrist, but I've got a little bit, which makes it nice in terms of handling, turning and so on. You can feel exactly what the front end is doing, it's nice and agile. I think the bike looks tremendous, it sounds nice, it's not lacking for anything, certainly in this SE form. It's definitely, I mean, I liked the older bike, the 2024 model a lot last road, but this is definitely an improvement on that. They've just given it some little tweaks to make it that much better. It doesn't feel as heavy as I thought it was going to feel. It certainly feels very, very sprightly. It's, you know, it's a fast bike if you want it to be. Not that I've demonstrated that at all on this ride, but I can just tell that this bike wants to go. That Öhlins suspension is nice and plush. It's difficult to comment on the brakes actually, because it being a new bike, they're obviously not scrubbed in properly. But let me just give them a bit of a hefty squeeze here as there's nothing behind me. Actually the ABS cut in quite quickly then. Thank you. Yeah, they're very nice, those brakes. Anyway, yeah, so I like the brakes, I like the way it goes. I love the smoothness, as I say, is probably the watchword for it. Downsides, well, can't really think of any after this simple first ride, other than the fact that you can't have the top box on and the panniers at the same time, which is a very small criticism, isn't it? If that's the only thing I can find wrong with it, there ain't a lot wrong with it, is there? So in summary, a lovely motorcycle. I think it looks great. I love the fact that it's what I call an old school sports tourer with the emphasis on sports. And if you're not an adventure bike fan and you do want a decent, capable, long distance mile muncher, it's going to take you places in absolute comfort and give you fun when you get wherever you're going, this is definitely one to have on your shortlist. Right, that's it for the first ride review. Don't forget to leave your comments below for anything in particular you want me to look at in my follow-up review, and I look forward to speaking to you then. Till then, this has been the Mr. and Fly. Cheerio.